What's going on, family, and welcome into the very first episode of Too Good to Be Drew. I'm your host, Drew J. Davis, a certified life and performance coach. And I figured for the first episode, we'd talk about I ain't gonna say elephant in the room, but one of the biggest things I wanted to talk about is something that I was so against, and that was why would you start a show? And I have to give nothing but thanks for the people around me for supporting me and pushing me to do this, whether that was Ed Jones, whether that was my podcast mentor, Jonathan Jones, whether that it was other mentors and coaches and family members in my life that said, Drew, you can definitely do this. And so I was vehemently, and I hope I said that right. I was vehemently against having a show, having a podcast, because I was definitely one of those people who said, there's too many podcasts out there. They're too watered down. They're too tough to maintain, or who do you know if you're getting to your. I made every excuse in the world on why not to start a podcast instead of finding the excuses to start a podcast. And I'll talk about that a little bit in detail, but I'm a very private person and you won't see very many pictures of me by myself. I'm usually taking pictures with friends, with family. I love doing that. But I'm so much not a spotlight person. And having a podcast causes me to put the spotlight on me. Even if I wanted to shine it on others, I have to put myself out there in order to do that. And so one of the biggest things that I saw while I was really thinking about, and I guess the word podcast scares me a little bit. I hear the word podcast and it sounds a little cliche now. There are a lot of them. A lot of people have them. A lot of people have had them. And that usually scared me a little bit, where I was just like, I don't want to do something just because everyone else is doing it. But one of the biggest things happened is I was listening to some podcasts and throwing some in the trash, as you would say. I'm listening to these people and I'm like, man, this podcast doesn't sound too good. I don't like XYZ about this. I don't like how they're doing this. I don't like how this person's voice sounds, which don't worry, I'm not going to say no names on who, but we all have very unique voices and that's cool. Some of us have better voices than others, and some of us should probably hide our voice in the ground and in the dirt somewhere. But as I'm saying all this stuff, the words kept coming up, Drew, why not you? Well, if you don't like their voice, why not your voice? You don't have the prettiest voice, but why not your voice instead of theirs? And more so, why not on a subject that you actually want to talk about? So those things started to creep in a little bit more. And I was like, I started to think, started to ponder, started to wonder. And I'm like, I said, you're right. And I say, you're right. And I'm talking to myself. So I'm telling myself I'm right. So my conscience, I'm telling him he's right. And so at that point, in 2025, I said, man, I need to reach more people. There's a lot of young men out there struggling. I'm a mentor, I'm a coach. I really, really love helping, pouring back into young men because I had so many people do that for me. So as I looked at that, I said, well, why don't you talk about something you love talking about, which is mentoring, something you do for a career, which is working in the coaching industry, helping coach athletes and high performing individuals on how to be better, helping them perform on and off the field. And then also just giving a little bit of advice. And also just giving a little bit of advice from someone who probably doesn't have someone to get that from. I looked at a lot of podcasts and you look at the TV shows and they're telling you exactly what you need to do, how much money you need to have, how you need to go about dating, what you need to do as far as your educational path. And I know sometimes these people are trying to help, but every situation is different. Now, there's a broader structure that can work for the majority of people, but there are a lot of situations sometimes they're just one off. There's somebody who doesn't have the money to go to school. And rather than go be in debt, maybe they need to go to a smaller college, a community college, and knock out those credits before they go to a bigger school. Or maybe they don't necessarily need to go to a big school. Maybe they're not sure what they want to major in yet. And so I saw the amount of advice or guidance in quotation marks that was given out, and I didn't necessarily agree with it. And so why not somebody who's actually specialized and works in this certain area give more advice, and also let it be where people can call in or write in order to get feedback on their specific situation. So a little bit of coaching, a little bit of mentorship, a little bit of advice. for the people that possibly can't afford it either. And so after thinking about that for a while, I decided to take the leap, and I hired a good friend of mine who's also a great podcast mentor, very successful person in the industry and what he's doing and what he's pushing forward. And that is my good friend, Jonathan Jones, with Speak Your Success Media. Has an awesome platform for what he does, goes around helping colleges and student athletes build podcasts to be able to tell their story and craft it in a way that can be successful. And he's the one that kind of let me know everything you want to do and everything you want to talk about is important. But is it important to you to be able to do it? So he's the person that really kind of opened the door and kind of let me see this. And what I like about Jonathan Jones, and I feel like you got the name where he got a name where you got to say the first and last name. He has a Drew Davis name pretty much. And one thing he said to me, and I will never forget it, or one thing he's done, but there's places, certain places you go to be coddled, you know what I mean, to go vent and have someone tell you it's okay, do exactly what you're doing, there's nothing wrong with that. And then you also need somebody who's going to tell you, yeah, I hear you, bro, but suck it up, get out there, who cares, do it, stop making excuses. And that's what Jonathan Jones was for me. He was understanding in a way, but he was also like, man, there are people out here launching podcasts every day. There are people that are afraid to get started because they had someone in their family pass away, or the circumstances aren't 100% right for them to start. Just start it, man. Start it, adjust it while you go. You can change it. The artwork doesn't have to be great. The theme song you have, the intro doesn't have to be perfect. The description in your podcast or in the writing doesn't have to be picture perfect. You could change that along the way. Press record on that screen and get started. You don't have to have the most updated laptop. You don't have to have the best microphone. You don't have to have the best drop back. You don't have to have the best, and I'm still going to call it drop back, but you don't have to have the best backdrop in order to record and put yourself out there. And so major shout out to Jonathan Jones, because he was a person that I leaned on heavily when I got this started. And one reason I decided to pay Jonathan Jones to be my podcast coach was because he has a whole database of him teaching, or a coursework of him teaching people how to start their podcast. So along with him giving me one-on-one instruction and helping me as well, he was also one of those people that I can go to for all this information, binge it really quick, take notes, chew on the meat, spit out the bones, and take with me what I needed to get this venture started. But he also checked in on me, like I said before, and he pushed me. He told me not to be afraid, or he told me to possibly be nervous about it, because being nervous about it means you're doing the right thing. So shout out to Jonathan Jones. I really appreciate you, the best podcast coach out there. If you're looking for somebody, if you want to start a podcast, or if you want to start an avenue of something you're passionate about and you just don't know where to start, go to Jonathan Jones. I'm sure he will be happy and obliged to receive your payment for services rendered, which a lot of us entrepreneurs and coaches do. We need to get paid. So we'd be happy to help you, as long as you got the money, you got the bread, and you got the yen, the gouda, the duchess. As long as you got that stuff, they're willing to help. So thank you, Jonathan Jones. You helped me get over that hump and that obstacle, which pretty much was myself holding me back. And so I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to this journey and creating this show. And I think one of the biggest things for me for launching this podcast was the fear of failure. What if I launch this podcast and it doesn't do well? What if I put all this time and a little bit of money in buying the subscriptions and the applications and editing a little bit, and people don't listen? And it was a fear of failure rather than a desire to succeed that held me back. And I'm a perfectionist at times. Like I said, I want to make sure the lighting's perfect. I want to make sure I have the best camera so I can look the best. I wanted to make sure that, I had books in my background so people know I was smart and educated and intellectual, and this is what I like doing in my free time. And I was waiting for everything to be perfect. And I had to come to the realization that these things are never going to be perfect. You might never feel like you're the best podcast host or person that you can possibly be. But you also will never know that if you never do it. And one of the biggest, I carry this quote with me everywhere. I read it somewhere in my early 20s. I don't remember exactly where I read it, but it's by an anonymous person. And it said, the people that regret not doing something were usually good enough to do it. Think about that. The people that regret not doing something were usually good enough to do it. And that's one of, I have that quote posted and plastered on my website because I want people that are searching for coaching to come in there and ask themselves that question. If you come to somebody for coaching, you're looking to excel in something that you're doing, or you're also looking to get pushed in a different area of something that you could be great in. Whether you're transitioning as an athlete or student athlete from college to the real world or professionally to the real world, and you're looking for some help, I'm the person you want to come to because I'm going to help push you. I'm going to support you, but I'm also going to push you to what you want to get to. And we're going to make plans to do that. So outside of being perfect, for me, I just wanted to have everything in the best situation for me to be successful. And I noticed that being a former athlete, we push for perfection. We push to get there because when you run these plays perfect and you're as conditioned as you can be and as strong as you can be, you give yourself the best chance to win. So essentially, I just wanted to give myself the best chance to win. And I noticed that in order to give myself the best chance to win, I have to get in the game first. I got to get out there. I got to show what I can do. I got to see what I need to get better at, what I need to work on. Shoot, what do I do well right now? I have no problem speaking in front of the camera. What do I do well right now? I got no shortage of friends that are willing to come on as guests and experts in their field to talk about their transition. I know a lot of student athletes and professional athletes that can speak to what that transition from their sport to life is about. I got a lot of people that I can tap into to talk about adversity and leadership and what does performing look like in life, on the field, off the field, as a dad, as a brother, as a husband. What does all that stuff look like? And one of the last things was pretty much doubt and imposter syndrome. And I actually read a good book recently called The Mountain Is You by, I want to say it's Brianna West. And that book helped me take this next leap to actually do this, to sit down, to record, to post episodes, to buy the subscriptions, to be able to post the podcast to the podcast platform and Spotify. And to be honest, I want to say a lot of us go through a small bout of imposter syndrome of, am I really good enough to do this? Am I going to find out that I'm a fraud? Do I have what it takes to be successful? Do I have what it takes for people to tune into me to episode after episode, week after week? Do I have what it takes? I don't think I'm outgoing enough. I got through all that stuff. And I'm sitting here today recording this episode, talking about some stuff that I probably didn't think I would talk about. But these are things I help a lot of my clients with. And so it would be selfish of me to hold back my gift of pouring into other people and helping them become and be the best them if I didn't show up and be the best me. So that is our first episode. You're tuned in to Too Good to Be Drew with Drew J. Davis, aka Uncle Drew. And I'm looking forward to telling you guys a lot more stories, but more so I'm looking forward to helping you. And if you need help and you have some questions that you want answered on the show, go to my website, drewjaydavis.com, click on the contact page, go in there, fill it out and submit it. And if it's good enough, it'll be on the show. Stay healthy.